I'm Ed Pizza. You can catch us at the castle, but in this week's example, you can catch Steph at multiple castles. A little bit jealous being on the sidelines, but Steph actually went to both Disneyland and Disney World for a little bit of a mini challenge and got to see both castles and a whole bunch of parks. On top of that, a few new restaurants, and so I'm pretty excited to hear about the trip and imagine I will have a lot of questions.
Hello, dreamers of all ages, and welcome to Catch Us at the Castle.
Hey everyone, I'm Steph Sweets.
And I'm Ed Pizza. You can catch us at the castle.
I know that you also have a trip coming up to Disneyland in October that you're planning for.
Yep.
So this might help a little bit as well. So I did do a little bit of a challenge that it didn't start out that way. I was just going to Disney World. I had made reservations for D23 and then couldn't get tickets to D23.
And I had my ticket for D23, which could not be transferred.
And you did not go.
No.
Yeah. So we were losers on the end of D23 this year. Maybe next year we'll try again. But I decided also, Molly had sent me a message. It was like, can you come down this weekend or that weekend? And it was sandwiched for Disneyland. It was sandwiched on either side of my Disney World trip. So I did end up popping down to Disneyland right before. And I thought, well, okay, since I'm here and going straight from here to Disney World, of course, I have to try and do all 6 parks in North America within 24 hours. I had done it back in like 2012, 2013. And since I was doing I'm going to be there within 24 hours, I decided to do it. It's a little bit of a challenge coming from the West Coast to the East Coast because of the time change, but I've mapped it out in the last year or so, trying to come from Disney World to Disneyland. And because the parks close so early in Disney World, you're running into challenges either way, no matter what way you do it. There's going to be difficulties with park openings. So since it's my challenge, I get to make the rules. I would like to do a more in-depth challenge where I actually am going into the park, riding a ride in each of the parks. But there wasn't time for this with the way things worked out. So another complication is that Disneyland doesn't allow you to park hop before 11 o'clock in the morning, which is another reason that it's a good idea to start on the East Coast. But again, so I started 24 hours and I marked the time for East Coast. And so for me, it's an exact 24 hours. I don't give myself extra time because of the time zone changes or anything like that. So I started out and did Disneyland and then headed to Disney World, and I was able to get all 6. So we went to Disneyland, California Adventure. And then when my flight landed, I hustled on over to Epcot. And then hustled on into Hollywood Studios, where I had a little snafu with security. And you can see on my social media that I got in trouble. But then I went to bed, got up early the next morning, did Animal Kingdom, and then ended at the Magic Kingdom, which was very fitting that that's the last park that I went to. And then I had to check out and go to work because I was working the whole entire week that I was down there because somebody has no more PTO.
No more PTO.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit of housekeeping for folks who are just tuning in. She is at Steph Parkside on Instagram. I am at Pizza in Motion. We are ramping up the Catch Us at the Castle social media content as well. I'd also note, Steph, just for a future episode, we probably need to go into a little bit of history about the doomed 3rd park in the U.S. It was actually near my home stopping grounds. It would have made it impossible for you to do all 3 parks in 24 hours. But they got fairly deep on a project to build another park in Northern Virginia. And
I thought that was all just rumors.
Oh no, there was land acquisition. There was a whole bunch of stuff. It was a big deal. It was a big deal here. Before I was a really big Disney fan, it was a really big deal here when I first moved down here in the 90s. And there was a whole lot of NIMBYism about not wanting that here in Northern Virginia. But that's a topic for another day.
Sure is.
It'd be a fun one for us to dig into. But
we have a lot of topics that we need to cover that would have made it impossible for me. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say impossible. Is it really impossible? We would have to map it out.
I don't know. It would have been tough. But there are Guinness World Records out there for visiting parks in certain time periods, and I think
Yes.
both you and I have those on our radar for future years.
Yes, there is not one. I checked, and there's not one for the parks in North America. That's not a thing. But yes, there are for all 6 parks in the world. That is on our radar for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So back to Disneyland for Halloween. Let's talk about Halloween Time. That's the official name at Disneyland, Halloween Time at Disneyland. And they have over 100 new food items at Disneyland. That's one of the things that Disneyland does to keep the locals coming in regularly. They're constantly having to change things up. And so bringing in a lot of new food items for the different seasons and different time frames is one of the ways that they do this. So I did go through, I was able to try several of the different food items. The ones I think that I loved the most was the pear cherry tart at Jolly Holiday, and then the pumpkin cookies at Harbor Galley. Those are must-haves on my list and not to miss for sure. So there are also always new churro flavors, and there's a s'mores one in Hollywoodland and California Adventure. So good. But I think the biggest thing for me happening at Disneyland was the switchover from Wondrous fireworks show, which I was there for the last showing of that. It will most likely be back the first of the year. I love Wondrous. It's wonderful. I also really love Halloween Screams. It's one of my favorite fireworks shows, like specialty shows. I'm not a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, but I really do love this fireworks show. And they've completely overhauled it for this year. So I thought while I was watching it that it was different. There were a lot of things that I noticed that were different, and the graphics of the projections were just incredible. And so I did pull up the 2024 version on YouTube, and it's dramatically different. The graphics, the screen projections have been improved significantly. They're so vivid, vibrant, gorgeous. And then they did change the way, like the introduction, the beginning of the show, all of those types of things. The old show in 2024, and preceding that, Jack Skellington came up very first of the show, and now he doesn't come up until later. But that was really fun to be able to see that on Wondrous one night, and then Halloween Screams the next night. Super fun to be able to be there for that.
That is cool. We are definitely big Nightmare Before Christmas fans, and we are absolutely obviously looking forward to what I consider to be the best ride overlay in all of the Disney parks for Oogie Boogie Bash coming up this fall.
Yes, 100% Haunted Mansion in Disneyland. That is the best overlay by far. I'm not a really big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, and I kind of wonder what's wrong with me sometimes. I'm like, what's wrong with me that I don't really like this? Because people seem to love it. But I do love that overlay a lot. So much. It's very, very good. And the gingerbread house that's in the Haunted Mansion is made out of gingerbread. It's different every year, so they make one fresh and new every single year. And the smells are lovely too. Yeah, you didn't know it was real gingerbread?
I didn't know it was a new design every year. We've only seen it a couple of times. Looking forward to seeing it again this year. So now I've got to start taking pictures so I can compare it year over year.
Yeah, it's always fun to see, and they usually will post on the Disney blog a post about it at some point during the Halloween time season, which right now runs through November 8th, I believe, at Disneyland. It goes a little bit past Halloween. And so some of the other things to note is that so Wondrous is gone, Paint the Night will still be going on through November 8th, when then it'll shift over to the Christmas parade. And the new 70th anniversary World of Color will stay throughout, is my understanding, throughout the whole holiday season. They aren't bringing back the holiday World of Color, from what I understand. We might need to check on that to confirm, but I thought I looked it up and that's what they said. So they have indicated that they will be bringing some of the 70th stuff back. So we'll just have to kind of hang tight and see. The the Disneyland Key is still available. That was brought on for the 70th. The Magic Band Plus experiences are still available throughout all of the holidays. Really, the only things that are leaving are the things where they had really big holiday things to replace it. So like the fireworks shows and like the parade.
Didn't I hear, maybe I saw that there's like an even larger key now?
There is even a larger key. And I thought it was like just a wooden plastic replica, but it actually does all this. Like it lights up. It has, it's probably 3 times as big and probably 5 times in price.
$250. Only $250.
Only $250, which the original is $60. So I was up close when I said 5 times in price.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Because that
crazy.
key, it's not like that key wasn't big enough.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. To each their own. I mean, I'm not going to diss on anybody that likes that and wants one and needs one in their life. But the original was big enough. I mean, the thing about the commemorative one is you're not going to be hauling it around the park. And that's the only reason that the other Disneyland key is too big, is because you're trying to haul it around the park and do all the things. We did find out while we were there, and we did test it out, you can reset your key. They will reset it for you. So when you walk into the park, there's the newsstand that's off to the left of the main entrance of Disneyland. And they have a special lock there that you put the key in, and it resets all of the magic for you. So Molly did put in little pieces of candy and stuff for her nieces that are coming so that they could redo it and then have another surprise at the end.
Nice.
Super fun.
Nice.
So that $60 investment wasn't a one-time investment. You can use it over and over again.
No, I like that they've enabled that. I mean, I think there are a number of things at Disney that don't go the way that we necessarily want them to go from a tech standpoint. So it's good to hear them thinking of ways ahead of time to make this stuff better.
Yeah, and the fact that this tech has worked. I haven't heard anyone talk about bugs with it at all.
No.
That's pretty incredible for anything on this scale and this level, and for Disney as well. It's incredible. So, yes, happy to see that.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions or anything else on Disneyland? Should we move on over into?
Let's go to the East Coast, where I don't currently have a trip planned, and so I'm listening keenly so I can figure out what I need to plan for my next one.
Okay, so I was able to do a lot of new things while I was there. Super fun. Food and Wine started. Food and Wine goes for a very long time, through November 22nd, I believe, and they're phasing the rollout of the food. So there is a new booth this year that's Guardians themed and has some Guardians related type foods. That doesn't start until September 22nd. I was bummed about that. There are several booths that won't open until the 22nd and several food offerings that aren't available until the 22nd. But I was there for the first day. I did try some of the new things. The Brazilian skewer, which wasn't on a skewer. It was so weird to me because why call it a skewer if it's not on a skewer? But it was very, very good. Highly recommend that. The fry flight, highly recommend that one too. So good. And then we just walked around and did, of course, the whole World Showcase with all of the food there. And there's lots of good stuff. I never have enough time to try all of the food. That's the problem.
Yeah, and around the world of all the food, the festivals is a lot of fun. And I mean, right after COVID, the food wasn't the best. I think before COVID, they did a really good job of pulling in vendors from the specific countries and having very regional and authentic food. And I think that they're slowly getting back to that.
Even as bad as it was at Disney World, the food at the food festival is way better than the food festival at California Adventure. When they first started that, it was really good. They had a lot of restaurants that came in and prepared dishes. I'm sure that the restaurants were finding it wasn't profitable for them at all to be able to do that. And so they haven't been doing that. And it's all mostly prepackaged stuff. It's not that great, mass produced. The Disney World is different. And so even if you think it was bad, whatever, because it's still better than the Disneyland food. So at the food festival. So yeah, that's pretty much all on the food festival. There's lots to do, lots to see. There's always the shows that come along with it, the concert series that comes along with it. Lots of really good stuff. I would love to go back and do the food festival again, just because it's one of my favorite things. And I didn't have as much time as I would like to have for that. So let's go ahead. You're going to ask a question?
I think that the nice thing about Epcot now as a park, it used to be a park where, especially festival time, it was really geared more towards Disney adult because there weren't a lot of attractions, and there certainly weren't a lot of feature attractions. As much as I love Figment, it is not the newest and greatest ride of all the rides. With Guardians of the Galaxy and Ratatouille now added to the mix at Epcot, even though the Frozen experience isn't excellent, it's still a top tier attraction. Revamp of Test Track, I think you can really see different ways to do Epcot now. It's not necessarily just an adult park. You can sort of like pick and choose and like do a couple of festival booths and then go catch a really great ride and then go back and do some more festival time. So I really like the way Epcot has evolved.
For sure. And along those lines, I was able to do Test Track. Have you seen any sneak peeks or previews or anything about that?
I've seen a little bit of a sneak peek. It looks like it was some pretty nice improvements to a ride that was fun before, but just certainly dated.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, I really loved it. This is my favorite version of Test Track that there ever has been. And when you enter into this last room where there's a lot of projections, and it actually took my breath away. And I was wow. I said it out loud. The person riding with me, I don't think had noticed all of the projections, because when they saw me looking up and looking around, they did the same thing, and then they wowed too. So yeah, it was incredible. It blew me away. So this is by far, I've never walked out of Test Track and been like, wow, before,
right,
with all of the other versions, but I felt that with this. There was a little bit of a nod for me to Radiator Racers, which is built on the same technology. And so you'll recognize it. If you've been on Racers, you'll recognize, and you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, there's the nod to Racers for sure. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, highly recommend it. When we went through, we had a lightning lane for it, but the single rider line was a walk-on at the time. But we went back to do the single rider line other times, and it was a very, very long wait, like a 45 minute wait, where the standby queue is anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. So just keep that in mind as a thing to look out for. If the queue is coming outside for the single rider line, it's going to be long. 45 minutes. To me, that's long.
Yeah, that is long. I'd say the only upside is that the majority of the Test Track queue is indoors, and so that does make it easier. It's also, to your point, one of the few rides at Disney World that has a single rider queue. There's only a handful of them and can move pretty quickly.
Yes, it does move very quickly. I was really impressed with how quickly it moved.
Yeah, I think part of that is like those ride cars are unique. Like if you think about, I'm trying to think of another ride that has a single rider, the roller coaster in Animal Kingdom, not Matterhorn.
Everest, thank
you. Gosh, it sucks getting old and forgetting these things.
I know it does. I'm saying that because I heard someone on the bus call it Matterhorn as well. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, everyone's calling it a Matterhorn. It's a new trend.
That Everest is a 2-person ride car, effectively. I mean, it's technically 4, but you're lining up in groups of 2. And so 2 is a pretty common number for parks. I mean, some of us go to the parks on their own, but for the most part, you're grouping up in 2s or 4s, where the Test Track cars are 6 people. And so 6 is a sort of not an odd number, obviously, but like a unique number in terms of size of group. And so you'll have 2s, 3s, and 4s, but you don't generally have 6s. And so we've actually ridden Test Track a handful of times with the kids where myself and one of the kids was able to get in the same vehicle and we weren't split up because they needed a group of 2 to fill out a car full of 6 people.
100%. It does sometimes luck out. You do get lucky that way. Sometimes you cannot count on it. And you need to know that you will be split up. I've seen a lot at Disneyland, definitely more than Disney World, where Radiator Racers, people will take young little kids in the single rider line, and I've seen little kids get lost when they get off, 4, 5, 6 years old, coming off that ride, not knowing where they're supposed to be, meeting their parents, and they wander away. And so you need to plan on being split up. You can't, definitely. Sometimes the magic happens, but for sure, plan on being split up.
I mean, I know it's early, but I'm just wondering, did you get any sense of, whether it was worth grabbing a lightning lane for a Test Track, given, you've obviously got some other rides there that are very lightning lane worthy now with Guardians and Ratatouille.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it's worth it. Absolutely. Especially if you've been on the other rides. Like I said, if you're a test track person too, especially because this is my favorite version of test track that there's ever been. It's definitely different and unique. And like I said, there were some breathtaking wow moments on this ride. So I do think it's worth it for sure.
Yeah, worth noting for folks that with the new groupings, you've got Frozen, Ratatouille, and Test Track are your Group A lightning lanes, where you can specifically, everything else is in Group B, and then Guardians is its own little world. So need an abacus, a calculator, and a math degree to figure out lightning lanes at Disney World.
100%. And we can go in deeper. We do have an episode coming up where we're going to be going deeper into our strategies for riding rides and getting the most out of the ride systems. So stay tuned for more on that. All right, let's talk about, it's interesting that you mentioned how Epcot's getting more family friendly. They do have a new lounge that is restricted to 21 and up, GO82, and it's the only lounge on property that is adults only. And there's been a bit of controversy about that, and I can imagine having kids and wanting to go in there because it's not like you can do a rider swap for the lounge. So we were talking about that with some people that have younger kids, and that was what they were like. They want to be able to go in there as a couple. And so I guess that's when you look into hiring some of the nanny services that they have on site, if that's something that you really don't want to miss and you want to do with your partner or your spouse. So I loved GO82. It was incredibly fun, and I'm a zero proofer all the way. They do have a couple of zero proof drinks on the menu that are incredible. It's not just one of the problems at Disney with zero proof drinks is that they are incredibly sweet. And for people that don't know what zero proof is, that's your non-alcoholic drinks. Some people call them temperance drinks. So they're usually incredibly sweet, and I don't usually get them just because I can't handle so much sugar.
Yeah.
But I had just one of the drinks there. It was called a walk in the garden. The first time I went twice to GO82 while I was there, which was very fortunate because it's a hard reservation to get. I had a friend that got one reservation, and then I got another reservation, and I had 2 walks in the garden. The first time, all of the food was incredible. We got everything off of the menu to try every single thing, and it was all really, really good food. One of the tips that I walked away with that I would love to share with our listeners is that they have a fireworks package that you can get that's like $180. I didn't pay too much attention to it because it's a lot of alcohol, and I just remember thinking that's way overpriced for me.
Yeah.
There's a special limited edition champagne, I believe, and then it's unlimited alcohol, which they got to cut you off at some point. Like unlimited with alcohol is kind of a risky thing to say, but that's what they were saying. And then there's also some food as well. You get seating right up in front in the windows. There are like big cushiony chairs and lower lounge tables down there in the front. We noticed that the floor is sloped. So that package is let me back up. That package is $178. We noticed that the floor is sloped, and one of our friends, Mike, asked our server about if there are time limits, if you get kicked out after 45 minutes, because Beak and Barrel has that 45-minute time limit. There are not any time limits. So my portion, we ordered all the food, my non-alcoholic beverages. My portion came to just about $60 before tip. So my recommendation is make a reservation for GO82 around 8-ish or a little bit later. Stay and watch the fireworks and forego the big package if it's something that you want to do. It would be an incredible view. I don't think that there's a bad seat in all of GO82 to watch the fireworks, especially with the sloping of the floor. I just don't think that you can be anywhere bad in there for viewing the fireworks and have a little bit of a lower bill too.
Yeah, speaking of lower bill, I'm curious what you thought about the prices. I read some reviews about GO82 online, and I have opinions on the cocktail and the mocktail pricing, but I'm curious what your thoughts were having been there and tried the drinks.
So, as far as the mocktail pricing, I think it's overpriced. But I think Disney is figuring out that they can charge alcohol prices without alcohol in it and make more money. There are a lot of Liars as a non-alcoholic, a company that's producing non-alcoholic beverages, spirits, all of that kind of stuff that supposedly tastes like alcohol. I can't compare, so I wouldn't know. We would need to get someone else's opinion on if they're the same or similar to the alcoholic versions. But I think that they're investing in those types of things to make drinks that taste similar for the people that really want that a non-alcoholic experience with the alcoholic taste or the alcohol taste, I guess. So, but yeah, I don't think my drink was $17 and it was not that big. So, of course, I did order it more than once, so I'm paying for it. But but yeah, prices are a little bit high, but it was really good too. It was for a special experience. You're not going there all the time. I think it's worth it. And I would do it again. I did it twice while I was there in that trip with some different friend groups. And it was so fun. So fun. So I think it's worth doing for sure. What have you been hearing? Love to hear more.
Yeah, so the alcoholic drinks, I saw prices online that were in the mid-20s per drink, and I don't drink hard liquor. I do have the occasional glass of wine. I'm torn on this because you're right. There is an experiential factor here, especially if you could catch some of the fireworks. I'm off the top of my head, I think 20 plus bucks for a a glass of sparkling wine. I mean, that's definitely pushing the envelope. And I mean, you're inside the theme park and the experience and all that stuff. It certainly wouldn't be an everyday experience for me at that price point. The food pricing I thought was more reasonable for sure. I felt like they definitely pushed it on the alcohol pricing. I think if I remember correctly, I think the cheapest beer was $9. Now, there's not a lot of alcohol, generally speaking, across the parks, and certainly not very many at all. Sort of sit down, air conditioned, upscale experiences. So I guess to some degree I get it, but it does feel like it's pushing the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, the people that I was with didn't comment too much about the pricing. They did comment a lot about how good the drinks were. So I know that we tried a lot of different drinks between everybody, and people were having sips so that they could try more. It was good. Everyone raved about all of the drinks that they had. So I didn't hear too many complaints. Like you said, like I said, it's a special thing. You wouldn't be going every time. You wouldn't be going every trip. Even maybe I would try and go every trip once. I think if people wanted to go with me, it's a great experience. So,
all right. Well, I can't wait to hear about Beak and Barrel because you got to do two things that I didn't get to do.
Yeah. Beak and Barrel opened while I was there. And again, I was very fortunate to get 2 reservations. Not me. I had a friend that got 2, so I went with 2 different groups. I went with our big friend group. Ed and I have a pretty big friend group of Disney adults. And so I went with all of our friends that were there for the first reservation. It was really fun. Some things to be aware of is that you might not be at a table. You might be standing. You will be with your group, but another group may come and join you. And so
this is right across from Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
It's next door to Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, right next door, between the restrooms and the pirate entrance. So when we sat down, we sat in a big booth, and the hostess let us know, or the host or the hostess let us know that someone would be joining us. We could sit in all of the booth seats, but the 2 stool seats, someone would be joining us. And so those poor people that joined us, but I was up filming and seeing things. And then I also got a call from Saratoga Springs back office, which I was not happy about. at that moment, which is where I was staying, and I had a whole bunch of issues with my room, and so I was really not happy that they were interrupting that moment.
Yeah.
With all of my friends at Beak and Barrel, like, you can't get those memories back. That's a whole other show.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. I didn't get to know the other people that sat with us. I found out afterwards that they were cast members, but we're just our group, we are fun and so much fun and laughing and joking. And I think that they were a little overwhelmed probably by us. And then we got all of the drinks again. So we ended up ordering everything off of the menu. I did not share my drink. They were all sharing drinks. But I said I can only drink my drink. And so I'm not sharing my drink because you all can drink all of the drinks. But the winners actually were I think from what everyone was saying, the non-alcoholic drinks. Like, people loved them. And then, when I went back the next night with some other friends, or later that same night, sorry, the reservations were the same night. I went with some other friends, other Disney friends, and they got the non-alcoholic drinks too, and they loved them. So I was able to try both of the non-alcoholic drinks, and they were very, very good. Highly recommend them. So there's a lot to them.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how busy Beak and Barrel stays, because as you know, like, we've got, not that many sorts of opportunities to do things like this inside the parks, especially when, Magic Kingdom. This is another one of those ones where I feel like, when I looked at the pricing, the food looked, reasonable for Disney pricing. But at least from what I saw, it looked like the cocktails again were maybe a little bit cheaper than Epcot, but still pushing the envelope from a pricing standpoint.
Yeah, definitely cheaper than Epcot drinks for sure. It's an incredible experience. And again, so the things to be aware of, you might be sitting, you might be standing, you might be joining another group that you don't know, so strangers. There's a 45-minute time limit. They hold you to that. They will ask you to leave when your 45 minutes is up. We were just a couple minutes over, but they were very gracious, and we asked them how much time we had, and they said, you're 5 minutes over. So, get your stuff. Let's wrap this up.
Well, and that might fade, because I think, like, the last couple times we've done Oga's, which I think has the same limit, 45 minutes, they haven't really been as stringent about it as they used to be, and maybe that's just because there's a little bit less demand. It has been easier to get Oga's reservations the last couple times we tried to get one. So I certainly appreciate the 45-minute limit in terms of being able to get a number of people in as soon as it opens and experience it. For sure, it wouldn't surprise me if that changes a little bit over time, maybe a little bit more leniency.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because a lot of people want to experience that, and that made it so that we could experience it too. I was able to have different groups of people with me each night. It was really special. The second group that I went with, he's a cast member. He does a lot of pirate things for Disney. Anytime they need a really good pirate for filming, for commercials, things like that, stage events, they bring him in. So he was on stage at D23 too. So it was fun to be able to bring them in there with that reservation and have them experience that. I can't say enough about the theming. It's incredible. It's so detailed. And the cast members that were our servers went into depth, and I'll post the videos on my social media about all of the details with the carvings in the booths and what they mean. And it's just, there is such a detailed backstory for the bar or for the lounge that is incredible all on its own. There's a parrot who I can't remember the name of. I'll have to research that. The animatronic that comes out does things, and the whole entire room, the whole entire lounge gets involved in parts of it, similar to how they do in Woody's Roundup with, Woody's coming and everyone is quiet. It's a lot similar to that in parts of the show. There's probably 3 or 4 different variations of interactions that happen within an hour. And there's ships in a bottle that duel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. One sinks. There's so much interactivity in this small little building that you definitely need more than 45 minutes to see everything that there is in there. They did invite us to walk around. And so we did on our way out. We were walking around and trying to see as much as we could. But there's a gel cell that you can sit in that's definitely modeled after the ride.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very, very fun with lots of nods to the ride as well in the lounge. So,
Sweet.
And the movies, all of the things.
So you're saying I need to bring our son soon, since he is still a huge fan. He is actually planning to dress up as Jack Sparrow for Oogie Boogie Bash later in October.
Amazing. Yeah, you need to fly him straight to Disney World so that he can do that lounge. We do need to probably say, just so people don't get confused, this one is not adults only. So families, It's a family-friendly lounge. Anyone can go. I didn't see any kids, though, while I was there, but I was there later at night. So that could be part of the reason why, too, in the evening and at night.
Yeah, and I think the food choices are not necessarily geared towards kids. So I think if you're there for a family trip, this wouldn't necessarily be people's first choices.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100%. Because it's more snacky food. It's lounge food.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a meal. We did eat before we went, and some of us ate again after. So yeah, it's all good. So there are a lot of other new food things happening in the Magic Kingdom. They don't do nearly the amount of new foods as Disneyland does, just usually a handful. So I was able to try the new apple fritters of Friar Tuck's, but that's really the only other new food thing that I tried, really, or new thing. I think that's all of the new things that I did. I did the Starlight Parade.
Oh, cool.
I know the reviews on that have been mixed. I loved it. I highly recommend it. It's very different from Paint the Night, but it doesn't mean that you can love one and only love one out of the two. There's room for both. They're very different, and I loved the Starlight Parade, so highly recommend that too.
And if you want to spend all the money, I don't remember the price on it, but it was I think around $50. There is a pretty cool skull mug that you can pirate skull mug that you can pick up at Beak and Barrel. I think comes with a boozy drink, but hopefully they would have a mocktail option for that, like they did in Disneyland when we bought the Walt Disney Temperance mugs.
Not yet, but maybe they'll get there.
Awesome. Well, I love the recap on all the cool stuff. Both Geo82 and Beak and Barrel are on my list for sure for future trips, so I can offer up my own reviews. And I know my son's going to be super excited about getting to see Beak and Barrel.
Yes, it was a wonderful trip. I had so much fun with all of our friends on both coasts and just living my best Disney adult life. So it was great. Even though I had to work, it was still great.
Well, working at Disney is better than working anywhere else, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we're probably going to have to do an episode at some point about co-working
at Disney. Yes. Well, we also talked about this in pre-show, but love to hear from folks on whether you like this sort of episode or you want us to stick to more tips and tricks or one specific category, because collectively between Steph and I, we're going to have a number of Disney trips over the course of any given year, and we can give you the full flavor of those. We can make those reviews shorter, but we'd love to hear from you guys to see what it is you'd like us to feature.
Yes, so absolutely like this episode if you're watching on YouTube. If this is what you want to see more of, let us know by interacting, commenting, liking the episodes, and tell us what you want more or less of. Really, just tell us what you want more of. That's what we want to know.
Love it. All right, well, until we upload again, Steph, I am Ed Peets. Oh, I can't talk today. I am Ed Pizza. Can't even say my own name. That's how tired I am. Till we upload again, I am Ed Pizza.
I'm Steph Sweets. Catch us at the castle.